All right, today is the first day at the community garden. It's about a 20 by 20 foot plot in urban Minneapolis. And we're just looking at what was left over from last year. So you can see I put in a cover crop of peas, oats, and rye. And a lot of the rye has actually come up this spring. So today we're gonna be covering that in composted cow manure and then moving some of the straw off the garlic. I put in a berry at the end of last season, which looks like it's just starting to bud out. It's not clear whether my black raspberry made it, but the cut leaf coneflower is coming back, as well as quite a lot of rhubarb. So I'm gonna be trying to give some of this rhubarb away to neighbors who maybe want some in their plot or in their backyard. You can see the garlic is coming through really nicely. And the other thing that I was a bit disappointed to see is my second honeyberry, Hascap Tundra, does not seem to have made it through the winter. I think it got frost heaved out. So I'm gonna give it another couple weeks to see if maybe it starts to sprout. I kind of stuck it back into the ground, but I'm anticipating having to replace that. We also have a little more rhubarb coming up over here. So the big task for today is gonna be getting the cow manure down over all of this. And we're super fortunate at our community garden that a local farmer delivers cow manure periodically. So that's actually free, and I'll just be loading it up into my gorilla cart, and then probably moving some of the straw that is on the garlic onto the compost. And then the last task for today is going to be putting in some fava beans, which I've never grown before, but I really like them, and I'm excited to see how they do here and if they can provide a nice harvest and also provide some beneficial nitrogen back into the soil, as the soil is so poor here and does need so much amendment. All right, excuse me being out of breath, but I've done 5 cartloads in to the plot now. Shoveling manure, no joke, but fortunately not coming super far. Before I started putting this manure down, I put down a couple pounds of blood meal to help kind of soak into the soil. It may feed the ryegrass, but we'll see, and the weeds. But I think I have about 2 more carts to go. I want to get most of this covered, but I do need to do a little bit more amending to some of the spots before I can probably start planting into them and put final compost on. The kind of main thing I need to do is get out this cut leaf coneflower. It's super beneficial native, actually grows really well in shade, which is why I'm probably gonna take it home because our yard is quite shady, but it spreads rhizomatically and it's pretty hard to get out. These were about 8 feet tall over my head when I took over the plot last year. And so it's just gonna kind of be an ongoing effort, I think, to get some of that out. All right, good morning. We are up at the community garden. It is mid-May and we've made a ton of progress in the last month. We've gotten some of the first warm weather stuff in, as well as installed this drip irrigation system. This is from Drip Depot. It's the vegetable garden kit. My dad was kind enough to get it for me for my birthday and then also to help install it. So we've got these initial drip lines running down with the tomatoes and peppers. I have not put them in on the side beds yet. I do plan to extend them over there, but just haven't quite got to it yet. I find I really need to break up my garden projects in order to have any hope of staying on top of them. The leeks and shallots that I put into this bed, I don't think have quite taken. I think that there was too much manure and maybe not enough soil contact. But the tomatillo that I planted last week is looking really good. My garlic's looking great. I see I have more weeds coming up over there that I'll need to pull. And then today's focus is going to be clearing out some of these weeds and planting asparagus. So the prep has gone really well. I think since I showed this last, I've added in more compost on top of these longer beds, as well as wood chipping over the burlap paths. I've also cleared out that coneflower, which was a fair amount of work. It really has a lot of rhizomes. I'm guessing it may make another appearance, but instead I've put in some eggplant over here. French, I have 25 asparagus crowns from Johnny's. These are the purple Erasmus, I believe, which are all male crowns. So they've been soaking in water for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm gonna flip them over and get the ends of them because they're just in this little 3-gallon bucket. And they'll kind of continue to soak while I dig the trench. So we're gonna put them in the trench. They can apparently be spaced pretty close together, like 6 or 8 inches. So, you know, this back over here is probably about 15 feet of length and 2 to 3 feet wide. So I'm gonna have to clear out some of that crabgrass as I go. But I think these should all fit in nicely. And then what we'll do is just kind of top it up with a good soil conditioner and part native soil, and then kind of keep adding to that over the coming weeks. I don't love digging. I'm not looking forward to this, but I'm gonna go ahead and time it and see how long it actually takes me to put in that bed. All right, that really wasn't so bad. That was actually only about 10 minutes of digging. It helps that our soil is really soft right now because we had a really wet winter and another inch of rain over the weekend. So that was actually part of the reason I waited to do this. In the summer, last summer, it was so dry. The soil was basically hard pan. It was really, really, really tough to get into. So I've dug about an 8 to 12 inch trench in these various parts. And so what I'm gonna do next is get my crowns out of the bucket and start laying them out in this trench. So we now have the asparagus crowns in place. The spacing is supposed to be about 6 to 8 inches. I did them tip to tail. I'm gonna kind of make sure that the crowns get nestled into the trench. You can see some of them, like this one, are really a little too close. We want those to be down at the bottom. I can't say it's perfect execution. Honestly, I'm a chaos gardener. I plan meticulously and execute by brute force. And so I'm just kind of happy these are in. Honestly, I was really dreading planting these. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and top them up with some of the compost and then shovel some of this dirt in. And then we'll use their dirty water bucket to water them with their own water once I kind of just make sure all the crowns are in place. So start to finish, this project was just about 30 minutes, which was about half the time I was expecting and way less work than I was expecting. You can tell I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to this because I have such a large yard and garden. It's a lot to keep up with bodily. So the asparagus is in. It's covered up with some compost and with some of the native soil, and I'll kind of keep layering that over the next few weeks as they start to come up. Hopefully not too much crabgrass mixed back in, although I'm sure some will. And then over here, we just relocated the honeyberry from right there to right there, which is hopefully going to give it enough room from the rhubarb. And it looks really happy. I'll see if I have a picture of when I planted it, which was maybe just about a week or week and a half ago, and I would say it's at least doubled in size. It was pretty sticky and puny when I put it in. And I put a little bit of water in the basil, and I think we're gonna call this it for today.